Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Metal Motorcast. This is your host, Dave, and I got a line special guest, Nostalgia Nitro Dragster driver Pete Wittenberg. How you doing, Pete?
Doing really well. Thank you so much for having me, Dave.
No problem. I like giving you Nostalgia guys a little promotion. So when did it all begin for you? How'd you start out in drag racing?
Well, I've been going to the drags for a long time. I got a job working at a hot rod shop, and that was my first experience going. I fell in love with it. Wanted a crew really bad, and Bob Richardson, he owned the Circuit Breaker Nostalgia Top Fuel car, the car I own now. He ended up hiring me as a crew member back in '01, and I've been with him ever since. It was really kind of fate. A friend of mine was building a junior fuel car, and I just wanted a crew and work on them and be a part of it. And he ended up bailing on his project, but referred Bob over to me, and that's kind of where it all started for me, as far as getting my hands on it and really getting in there.
So now, what year did you start driving?
I started driving, actually, 2016. It's a pretty cool story. Got my license the same weekend. I got my license the weekend of the March meet, 2016. It was a little bit of a struggle because we were having some mechanical issues and just kind of got through them. And on the last opportunity to get my last pass for my license so that we can actually race that weekend, car ran 578, 251, got my license, and then we ended up qualifying fourth that race, and we got past first round. We beat Adam Sorokin in the first round, champion speed shop car, and ended up getting beat second round. I got oiled in pretty bad, and that was basically the first race I had ever competed in. It was pretty thrilling, really, the way it all went down.
So who signed off for your dragster license?
Well, a lot of the guys that were there, Brendan Murray signed off on it. Pete Kaiser, he was helping me. He was crew chief on it. He signed off on it. Mendy Fry, who's points leader right now, she was helping us at the time, and she signed off on it. A lot of the legends in my mind, a lot of the people I looked up to for a long time, I was so fortunate to have them help me get through this, and then they signed off on it, and it's just it's a real, for me, it's just something I've got. Basically, it's not framed, but it's in perfect condition, and I'm going to hang on to that forever.
Well, for your first time out there driving a dragster, that was a big event to be in.
What was that? I'm sorry?
I said for your first time out there driving a dragster, that was a pretty big event to be in the March meet.
It certainly was. Yeah, I mean, I've been going to the March meet for 20 years, and these guys driving top fuel, front engine top fuel. I mean, it's to me. I mean, they carry their balls around in a wheelbarrow in front of them, and I always just thought, man, they're heroes. These guys are heroes, and I watched them for 20 years before I got my chance. I didn't know I'd ever even get a chance. And when I finally did, it was pretty amazing. And I can't, it's a surreal thing to even still be doing this. It's pretty wild,
Now, since you've been driving a dragster, what's been the fastest runtime you've had with the dragster?
What's that? I'm sorry. It's really hard to hear you.
I said, since you've been driving the dragster, what's been the quickest pass you've made with that thing?
We ran 251, 578. That was the quickest we went. I've actually just redone a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm hoping to go out there and run a lot better. But that was the quickest and fastest we had run, and it it was clean. You know, not a puff of smoke, no fire, no oil. Driving these things is they're a handful. I mean, we got a small tire on the back, high gear only, so you're in the gas or you're not. And if you're in the gas, I mean, it's moving around on you quite a bit. And to get it all the way down the racetrack is, especially that last 300 feet, that takes a little bit of effort. And half the time you got oil on you, or at least I have, trying to get through these new car blues. And hopefully these changes I've been working out they'll help me get through some of that and continue the path forward.
So now, before this dragster, you've never done any drag racing, like with bracket racing or anything?
No, I never raced anything. I went right into front engine top fuel, pretty extreme. And I wasn't hesitant either. I just kind of moved. I've been standing behind these cars for 16 years, listening to them, working on them. I know this car inside and out. Before I jumped in the seat, I talked to a lot of experienced drivers and listened to a lot of different combinations and heard them under all kinds of different conditions. And it was almost like the natural progression. I'd almost done everything on the car except drive it. So when I got in it, it felt right. It felt right. And it's every hit I make in this car, it's definitely an eye-opener. You learn something new every time. You never quite know what it's going to throw at you. So you're on your toes. You're aware, but I try my hardest to cut a good light and get that, just wheel it down there and not thinking anything but picking up that wind light.
Now the funny thing about you just jumping straight into a dragster is the interview I had before you at 7 o'clock was a Akaw funny car driver, and he never drove anything before jumping in an Akaw funny car. Did you catch that?
Yeah. What was the question?
No. It wasn't a question. I was saying the funny thing is, the interview I had before you tonight, I had an Akaw funny car driver on, and he's never driven anything before he jumped into the Akaw funny car.
Yeah. I mean, I did the Frank Hawley school probably 5 years or 6 years before I drove this thing, just to see what it would be like. And it was a gas dragster, and it went, I think, 850s, 160, 170, something like that. And it was a good experience. I didn't expect to really drive this car, but anytime soon. But when the opportunity arose, I know I learned a lot in that class, and it started to come back to me. And I'm kind of happy I never drove anything else, because it's giving me the opportunity to come into it with a clean slate and really kind of focus. I mean, I'm staring at the car right now. I mean, everything I have goes into this thing, and I love it to death. And it's just so much a part of who I am and what I am, that, the few opportunities a year that I get to drive it gives me that sort of, the perspective that you can only get by driving one of these things.
Right.
Yeah.
So now when you started getting into drag racing many years ago, what dragster, drag racing people were inspirational to you back in the day?
What was that? It's really kind of hard to hear you, man.
I was saying, when you first started getting into drag racing many years ago, what drivers were inspirational to you out there?
Well, what was it that I got into back in the day when I started doing this, or?
No, when you first started getting into drag racing years ago, what drivers were inspirational to you that were out there racing?
Oh, what drivers? Oh man. Nitro Neil, Jerry Steiner, Howard Haight. You know, I was really into the nostalgia thing. The front engine cars were where it was at. Late model stuff's bitchin', you can't deny that. But this stuff has always had my attention. I got to work with Howard Haight. He drove this car for a while, and he was one of the first drivers I actually got to get kind of close to and really learn from. We were right behind Jerry Steiner before his big wreck at Bakersfield, and I got to watch that car just go down through there. And, you know, Jerry used to do, you know, big smoky burnouts, and the thing would be all over the place, and he was able to drive it like you couldn't believe. You know, it's just, Nitro Neil always had just class. You know, everything about that whole operation was for me, positive. Got to learn a lot just by watching that, you know.
Now, how about currently? Are there any nostalgia dragster drivers you look up to currently?
Yeah, I do. They're all, you know, to be a part of this is really something special. Everybody who drives a front engine top fuel car, there's a certain kind of person it takes. I mean, these things are, you know, it's a high gear only car, small tire, nitro racing. You know, the wheelbase is short compared to the big car. You know, you got funny cars, they're same wheelbase, late model as they are nostalgia. 4-way disc brakes on those things, 2 speeds, big tires. You know, front engine top fuel cars are high gear only, small tire, and you know, we don't have a firewall or a windshield. The motor's just hanging right out in front of you, and you sit in it, and it's just, you know, anybody who drives these things these days, you know, Jim Young, he's amazing. He's been a big part of what I've been doing lately, and you know, everything he says is just an eye opener. Mindy Fry, she's driving the high speed car, and you know, they've got this thing licked right now, and she's been a huge help to me back when she was helping us. She was a big part of me getting my license, and you know, it's just you know, Jim Murphy's been driving these things forever. I get to watch him go down the racetrack, and you know, Adam Sorokin, of course. If I could learn to cut a light like him, you know, that would be the ideal situation. But yeah, anybody who drives these cars is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Now, what about Michael Hofstede?
Oh yeah, Mike Halstead, sure, yeah, you know, he won rear motor top fuel at the March meet, and that's you know, I'd love to try driving one of those things. He's all around. I think he's driven tons of stuff over the years. Is that right?
Yeah, he's drove pretty much everything.
Yeah, guys like that, man, where you can just cross over and drive a bunch of different things. You get a lot of experience and knowledge, and yeah, it takes, you know, you gotta be good to be able to do that stuff. You know, when somebody says, "Hey, jump in this car and we want to win a race, and here are the keys, and you've got a job to do, and you can drive a bunch of different kind of cars and be asked to do it again," that's really kind of the pinnacle, is to be able to be kind of a hired hand in a way, you know, be trusted with it.
Yeah, because originally this year when the March meet, he was supposed to be driving 3 different vehicles: the funny car, the Code Red funny car, the Mike's Transmission Dragster, and then the fuel altered. I can't remember which fuel altered it was though. I guess the few after they had something with the family, someone got ill or something, so they didn't run. So that's why he only did the funny car and the dragster.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally two different, completely different cars. So, you've got to be able to focus on that Christmas tree, and you've got to be able to react per that car, what that car is going to do and how that car is going to react going down the racetrack. If you've got to shift it or if you don't, you've got to focus, and you've got to be able to take your mindset from the dragster to the funny car or whatever it is and give it everything you can and do your best. And that's definitely a skill that is, acquired by driving for a while.
So now, are you going to run out the Hot Rod reunion?
Yeah, the plan is, we're hoping to go to Boise. I pay for this thing all by myself, and I just build hot rods, for a living, and it's quite a bit. My crew is in; they're good to go. So we ran Boise before, but it was years ago, so I don't really have a tune-up for it. And considering the changes that I've been making, I don't know where we'll be testing. We're going to go testing in San Diego a couple of weeks from now. Hopefully that'll give us some kind of a baseline, and we'll be able to go to Boise and do well. That's the plan. We go out there to kind of upset it. We're the circuit breaker. We go out there, and when we show up, we're there to win, get points and trophies, and then after Boise is Tulsa. I don't know if we'll make Tulsa, and after that is the reunion, and we're definitely going. It's the closest racetrack for us. It's the hopefully it's going to treat us well like March Meet did. So it's easier for the crew. The tow is shorter, so it's a little cheaper. But yeah, we love Bakersfield. It's just the racetrack itself is stellar. It feels like home to me. I know it's not the cleanest place. Sometimes it's, a little hard to maneuver around, but that place to me has some kind of a magic to it. I really appreciate it. So any opportunity we have to go there, we're going, if I have anything to say about it.
Now, Pete, thinking about your crew, who are all your crew members?
Well, we got, we've had some personnel changes over the couple years we've been getting after it here, but, I got Todd on the left cylinder head. We got Colin down below. We got Steve on the right cylinder head. Big Show Joe on the clutch. We got Riley helping out. Bobby Sutton's mixing fuel for us. He's Larry Sutton's son from the famed starter from Lyons and Orange County and through the years almost everywhere. So, it's kind of a small crew. We got 6 guys. But we manage. We get it done. It's a pretty streamlined operation. We go out there with everything we need. We cover our bases before we get there. The crew's really kind of well-rounded. We're kind of cross-training everybody to be able to help wherever the help is needed. And it's a benefit because sometimes one thing will slam dunk right in there and something else won't. So being able to really focus on the job at hand, whatever it may be, it compensates for being kind of a smaller team.
Right. Now, do you have any sponsors for your dragster?
We've had help over the years. We're always looking for help. We fly House of Volta colors. That's a breast cancer awareness. It's a nonprofit. We don't get any financial help from them, but it's a good thing. We do what we can. We're out there trying to spread the word for House of Volta, and We've had a couple of small financial, things come through here over the course of time, but nothing too substantial. And, I'm put together a little packet. I'm hoping to maybe get a little bit more help coming up so we can continue doing this. But it's really, at the moment, no, not really,
Yeah, Nitro's not a cheap thing to be racing with.
It isn't. We've got a lot of, everything we have is top-notch, perfect stuff. And we won't be doing it any other way. I'm not going out there with anything other than a righteous operation. This thing's going to be top-notch all the way around, or we're not going. But to do that takes finances. I want to go out there and I want to win. We can't compete with some of these teams that have unlimited funds without being able to really, give it everything that we have to give it. I don't want to go out there and not be able to lean on it, so to speak, because it's maybe not perfect, So when we go with a perfect race car. We've got the right parts. We've got spares. We've, at the March meet, what ended up happening was Thursday, we made a hit, shake the cobwebs off, and kind of made a couple changes to see what they would give us, and we threw the rods out of it, and the race hadn't even started yet. So it was a little frustrating. We were all the way in Bakersfield. I didn't bring my spare motor, partially because I'm an idiot, partially because I only had one camshaft, and I figured we'd just run this one cam all weekend so we can learn with it, because it was a new cam to me. And, changing motors with changing camshafts in the middle of a race when you don't know much about how either one is going to react didn't seem optimal or ideal. So anyway, we ended up Thursday night, Colin and I, crew member, we hauled butt down to Orange County. We borrowed a camshaft. We built the motor. I have all the parts to do it, but I didn't have a cam, so I borrowed a cam from Tom Sheeler. And it was a completely new, something we had not run before, double swap deal. And built the motor. We got 2 hours sleep, hauled ass back up to Bakersfield. The rest of the crew stayed behind. They got the motor out of the car. They cleaned the car. They got it all prepped. So when we showed up with the motor in the morning, it would be a slam dunk. Hopefully we'd stab that thing and get it all together and be able to go out there for qualifying, which we did. And we qualified, I think, 4th or 5th, which was, with a new cam and on our spare motor. Jim Young was there helping us, and he made a couple of adjustments, which really helped us kind of build a baseline. And, so that just goes to show we're not going to throw in the towel. When we show up, we're showing up to compete. Against all adversity, we're going to give it everything we can. So, that's the purpose here, is to win races, have fun, and win races, and be safe.
Yeah, that's seems to be the good thing with nostalgia, guys. Everyone's willing to help each other out.
Yeah, I don't know when it was, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, we won. We beat John Iverich's Ground Zero team. It was at Bakersfield, and I don't know if it was first round. I think it was. I don't know if it was March meet or the reunion, but it was one of those. And we got back to camp, and we banged the blower. We made a mess of it. But we won. But we've always been kind of that underdog team. So we get back to camp, and we start pulling this thing apart, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, and we're going rounds. It's Sunday, so we don't have a whole lot of time. And John Iverich's crew came over. Dale Poldy was there. and they just helped. We just beat them, and they're over there thrashing with us. We've got parts flying. We've got everything, oil flinging around, and we got it done, and we got it lit in the pits before we went up to go make that next round, and everything was perfect. There was a small fuel leak that was just a loose fitting, and we tightened that sucker up, and we went and got on the starting line. We could not have done it without them. And that's kind of the family aspect to this nostalgia deal. You can, when you're on the starting line, these people are your friends and they're your family. But there's a good 2 minutes where you really you're there to win. But after that 2 minutes, it doesn't matter who won. Oftentimes, whoever got beat is going to come over and shake your hand or come over and help you. And a big part of this stuff is the people. And that's something that Bob always said when I was growing up, when working on his car. It was, the cost is there and the time aspect of it is there. And trying to do this is not easy, especially on a limited budget. But you can't beat the kind of people that do this stuff. You can't find that anywhere else. And we're competitive type of folk, but it's hard to find somebody that, you can bond with on the same level, but go out there and have a fair, really good race with, and then remain friends afterwards and family. It's really kind of a special thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what year is the Dragster?
It is a Sterling. It's an 01 Sterling back half. We front halved it back in 2015 when I inherited the car. It was a two-piece car. It fit in Bob's garage. So the first about 5 feet bolted on and off, so it would fit in his two-car garage with the door closed. And we would take the front half off and put it in his living room where it sat until we went back out. And I've got my shop I made a room, so the car's here now. And, with the help of Leroy, he's my neighbor and partner on this deal. He did a lot of fabrication on this car initially and got this thing one piece, and it's a super nice car. So it's a Sterling back half, and it's a shaver front half. So
now what kind of motor you have on it?
It's a Donovan. It's a billet Donovan. It's 417. We got Alan Johnson heads, Alan Johnson manifold. We were running a cast block and decided, when we decided to do this thing, I really wanted to get all the nice stuff, all the modern stuff. So it's a billet Donovan. I've got 2 of them. And it's based off a 392 early Chrysler motor, which is another, in my opinion, it's the most beautiful motor there is. 392 Chrysler, can't beat the looks of them. But one of the really cool aspects of front engine top fuel, another really neat aspect is that you've got a ton of different engine combinations. You've got big block Chevrolets and small block Chevrolets and kind of hybrid, big block, small block hybrid Chevrolets and late model Chryslers and 392s, and some guys have 2 speeds and some don't. And, they're a class unto themselves. Some have full bodies, some have shorty bodies. We had a full body, and now we have a short body, and we're maybe going to go back to a full body. We'll see.
Now, with the burnout in the past, how many gallons of nitro you burn up?
We've got a 14-gallon tank, and between the burnout, backup, and run, we're going through 10 or 11 gallons. Usually we'll come back with 3 gallons or so. And that's a safe zone. Nitro's heavy. 10 pounds a gallon, and we could probably run a little bit less fuel in the tank, quantity-wise, and make the car a little bit lighter. But the last thing you want to do is, get hung out on the tree or do an extra long burnout or have trouble trying to get it into reverse and start running short on fuel and then have to drive it out the back door. And if you run out of fuel, you're gonna be wishing you didn't. So we put a little bit of extra gas in it just to make sure that it's on the safe side of things and we don't run out of fuel for sure.
All right, so Pete, what was it like for you to get behind the wheel for the first time on a Nitro Dragster?
I didn't really know what to expect other than what I'd heard and what I'd witnessed. And the first hit, I got in it, and I did the burnout, got it backed up. Everything was just fine. I'd gone through this in my head hundreds of times, thousands of times. And I didn't feel like I was ill-prepared. I felt comfortable and ready for the task at hand, and got in the thing, and everything seemed just fine. As soon as I hit the throttle, I had never experienced anything like that before in my life. It just came alive. It just made a move to the right, and I lifted, and I felt like I'd gone 600 feet, and I don't think I made it 80 or 100 feet. I clicked it. I didn't cross the center line. It was just a test. So I kind of knew where I was, but it was definitely an eye-opener. I was definitely had a different respect for it once I mashed that throttle down for the first time. And it got me a little bit more settled as far as what to expect. And, this car, it's probably a characteristic of running a nitro car. I mean, we run 85-90% of this thing, depending on where we are. And so it's a heavy load, and it leaves pretty hard, in my opinion. And about 300 feet, it feels like it's leaving all over again. It just plants you back, and it starts to move hard. It's relentless. And the whole time it's skating around. It's going left, it's going right. And your head's getting planted further back and further back. The further down the racetrack you go, you think it would let up a little bit, but it does not. And that takes some getting used to because, we've all had, I build hot rods. I mean, I'll drive a muscle car for a customer around the block, and I'll get that thing running purdy, and you get the speed sensation out of it. You get the rumbly, noisy sensation out of it. But there's something about this. There's something about running a nitro car where it's just trying to tear your head off at 1,000 feet that takes some getting used to. I'm still working on getting used to that.
Okay. Now, where do you get all your safety products from?
We've got a little bit of Taylor, a little bit of DJ. I've got my Porge seat, my seat belts. Those are Taylor. My blower bag and my blower restraint, those are DJ. Diapers, Taylor. My chutes are Simpson. My fire suit and everything is all Simpson stuff. Simpson's pretty close to where my shop is, so it's easy for me to go down there and get stuff certified or repaired. Plus they have their truck goes to the racetrack, and so they're super cool. As far as when you get there, if you need something, they usually have it. So it's nice. It's a nice to have somebody there when you need something. It's a big part of it.
So what goes into preparation for you to get the dragster ready for a weekend?
Well, I work on this thing every day. If for at least an hour a day. It's kind of my credo. If I can just get a little something done. It might be staring at it and writing some more items down on my list, but I still feel like it's something. And but it takes hours and hours and hours, and I love every second of those hours. The thought that goes into it, the labor is really kind of like a side dish to what you're doing. I mean, for me, I'll be building heads and listening to my music and focusing on what I'm doing, but also kind of in the zone. So it's like a therapy for me. I can kind of get other things done in my head, get things sorted. And the next thing you know, you got a pair of heads built, and it might have taken a couple nights or 3 or 4 nights. But sure, it's just one set of heads, and you've got another set to build, and you still need short blocks, and you still need, to change your tires and service this and check that. And so, I mean, it's a lot of time. I've got crew, they come over here, every other Saturday, and, more or less. And it doesn't matter how many guys show up. There might be one guy that shows up. There might be 4 guys that show up. There's plenty to do for everybody, between the truck rattling fenders off because our beautiful roads here in California are pothole riddled and they just shake parts off your truck. Trailer breaking leaf springs, lights falling off the ceiling of your trailer. And, we're trying to reorganize things, trying to make them a little bit more streamlined, building cabinets and shelves in the trailer, organizing those. There's a lot more to it than just a race car. Every time we go out, the car gets completely disassembled. Every head we ran, every block that we ran gets torn completely apart, thoroughly cleaned, thoroughly checked before reassembly. The chassis gets thoroughly checked. We look for cracks and tweaks, anything weird. And it's never done. Never done. So basically the race is tomorrow and everything's loaded and you're thinking, okay, I wish I could have done this or this or this or this, but I'm pretty confident that we're good to go. So let's go.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a few fun questions here to finish off this interview. Do you have any hobbies outside of drag racing?
I like dogs. They're pretty sweet. I got 2 little babies. I got a Chihuahua and a Pit Bull, and I spend time with them. We'll go to the beach. We'll go to the dog park. I love what I do, so I feel pretty fortunate if I'm not building a car for a customer, which I thoroughly enjoy, then I'm working on my own hot rod here, this race car, and I thoroughly enjoy that as well, and it's just all fun. So I haven't really wanted to get into anything else, had the desire to do it. So if I'm not here at the shop, I'm just hanging out with my dogs, I might want to get into cooking eventually, but...
All right, let me ask you this question. And you're talking about cooking. What's your favorite food to eat?
The Mexican food here in California is pretty amazing. I like finding street food in random places and trying that. And, oftentimes I'm impressed, and I want to know more about it. What is it? What did you do to it? How long did it marinate? Whatever. There's so many variables to it. It's kind of like front engine top fuel. You can have any kind of motor, and if it's going to run, and you're going to try to make it do its best. And it's kind of like a taco. You might have a taco that sucks, and you might have a taco that's extraordinary. Well, what is it that made it that good? And It's kind of fascinating. I don't know. It's kind of simple, but intriguing at the same time. It'd be really, really cool to get to become better at cooking.
Okay, now what's your favorite beverage to drink?
Coors Banquet.
How about non-alcoholic?
Water. I don't really drink anything other than water and Coors. I've been getting into those fizzy waters, LaCroix, whatever those things are.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Those are kind of tasty. I like them.
So, what's your favorite music to listen to?
I listen to blues, lots of blues, metal, early country. Went on this blues tour a couple years ago. Went down to Mississippi and checked out the Crossroads. Lots of interesting history there. I like history a whole lot. And I think that's kind of what keeps my interest in the nostalgia scene. I love the history of it. I love the realness to it. If you start diving into all these different cars, all these cackle cars that have been restored, and there's so much love that goes into these things, and these early teams, and it's just there's so much to it. Anything with any kind of historical value, that's kind of, the blues, early country, early metal. I love metal. I like stuff with a story.
Okay. Now, what would you consider to be your fondest memory of your drag racing career?
Well, winning the March meet was definitely up there. I get to, my name is on this list with these heroes. It's surreal. And I don't think I'll ever, it's kind of like, the only place to go from here is down in a way. I mean, if you want to, everything else, you can only win your first March meet once and become part of that list forever once. You can win it 5 times like Garlitz, and that's really a feat.
Right.
But it's, the feeling you get from going from the reality of it setting in is just, the amount of work and effort that you put into these things, and to actually have that settle in, it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Back in 01, we won Vegas twice, 01 or 02, I don't remember. That was really neat. We were right there with everybody else, winning races. Those were back in the good guys' days.
All right, now, Pete, if people that are listening to this interview right now want to find out where you're going to be running at, what's the best way for them to find out where you're running at?
Well, we're going to be doing the San Diego deal in Verona, an 8th-mile track with a cliff at the end of it. So we're going to do our best to get this thing shut down at 300 feet and stopped. But that's going to be a fun one. There's going to be altereds and funny cars, and we'll be there with our front engine dragster, and probably be a car show and tons of cool stuff happening. We're going to use it as a test session, and then Boise, here we come, ready, loaded. So that's our next outing.
Well, Pete, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you spending time and putting this stuff out there. It's definitely needs to be documented, I think, this drag racing business.
Yes, we'll do another one in the future and probably next year.
Sounds good, yeah. Keep me in mind.
Okay. You have a great night, Pete.
Thanks, Dave. You too.
Bye-bye.